Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, it's been a minute since Anthropic dropped their new flagship model, Claude Sonnet 4.5. They are promising major improvements across the board and even calling it the world's best coding model. Now, every company says that about their model, so I wanted to see how true that really is. And in this video, I'll be comparing Claude Sonnet 4.5 with some of its top competitors across three areas: coding, writing, and data analysis. Before we start testing, I just want to quickly explain how I choose which models to compare Claude against, because I'm not just picking them at random, right? I'm using the LLM Arena Leaderboard. It's a platform where thousands of people test AI models in blind, head-to-head matchups, and vote on which one gives the better response. And based on those votes, the models get ranked. So it's one of the most reliable ways to see how these models actually perform in real-world use. So I pulled up the leaderboard and looked at the top performance in two categories: coding and writing. There isn't a separate category for data analysis, so for that part, I'll be comparing Claude with GPT-5, which is generally considered one of the strongest models in that area. Alright, here's what we'll be testing. For coding, Claude Sonnet 4.5 versus GPT-5, and Claude Opus 4.1. For writing, Claude Sonnet 4.5 versus Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT-5. And for data analysis, Claude Sonnet 4.5 versus GPT-5. Quick heads up, these leaderboard rankings change pretty often as new models roll out and get updated, so the competitors I'm using are the current top picks, but by the time you are watching, the order might look a little different. Also, I'm using the paid plans for all these models, so we are seeing their best performance. Alright, now that the lineup is set, let's jump into the coding test. For coding, I've got three questions lined up, each with a different use case. Let's see how each model handles them. We'll be using the same prompts, by the way, for every model with no follow-up questions, just the first output they produce. And then we'll rate the models at the end of each test. So for the first question, we'll be asking the AI model to create an app. And here's the prompt we'll be using. Please create a fast, lightweight app for discovering, comparing, and assessing productivity tools across coding, writing, content creation, project management, and more, with accounts, bookmarks, ratings, and persistent themes. Then core goals and key features. All right, so first Claude 4.5. Let's run the prompt. Okay, this is the output. The search tool works fine. But the view button doesn't do anything, okay? You can toggle between light and dark mode, and there is a sign-in option too. There are plenty of filters here, though I'm not a big fan of where they're placed. The expanded view works smoothly, which makes comparisons easy, and the Visit App button takes you straight to the original site, which is really great. So overall, it's a solid app. The layout could use a few tweaks, but that's something we could fix with follow-up prompts. For a first attempt, I'd say it's a strong result. Now let's run the same prompt here in ChatGPT. ChatGPT's design looks completely different and honestly a bit chaotic at first glance. It added a few extra options, but the layout feels rough. The search feature works, though the theme toggle doesn't, like at all. The filters are functional, but again, poorly placed. Some logos are missing, the expand feature doesn't work, and the compare function only allows two apps at a time with no visual indicator. So this is a bit frustrating, and the visit button also doesn't function. So overall, I'm not impressed with ChatGPT's version. It's underwhelming. Maybe it could be improved with some follow-ups, but the initial result isn't great. Now, Claude Opus 4.1, let's test it out. Alright, at first glance it looks good. The filters are tucked inside a hamburger menu, but work perfectly. The theme button works nicely, and there is a sign-in option available. The view feature doesn't function, and you can't expand apps, but the compare feature works flawlessly, and a visit button is also functional. So overall, again, a solid first attempt. So I think Sonnet and Opus performed well on this question. They handled most of the app nicely, even with a few minor issues, but again, they can be fixed with the follow-up prompts. ChatGPT, though, didn't do well in this test. So let's move on to the second question. we'll create a website this time. Here's the prompt we'll be using. Create a modern, minimalistic, B2B focused website that exudes professionalism and builds trust with potential clients. The design should be clean and purposeful, allowing content to breathe while guiding visitors toward meaningful engagement. Well, that was prepared not by me, by AI, of course. Anyway, then we have structure and layout, design system, and key principles. You can pause the video to go through the prompt if you want to understand the context better. But other than that, let's just run the prompt. Here we have Claude Sonnet 4.5. At first glance, the website looks very minimal, almost too minimal, too bare, I'd say. There is no header, which isn't ideal. The buttons work and are responsive, and it does include social proof, case studies, and services. But overall, the design feels like overly stripped down, right? At the bottom, the schedule a call and send us a message buttons don't function, which is disappointing, and overall not an impressive result. Now let's go to ChatGPT. Let's run the same prompt here. And right away, ChatGPT's website looks great. The header is present and works perfectly with a clean, modern hero section. It even stays fixed at the top while scrolling, which is a nice touch. All the key sections are there: social proof, case studies, services, and more. There's also a subtle scrolling animation that adds polish. The Let's Talk section is fully interactive and works flawlessly too. ChatGPT kind of nailed this one, so I'd say it's an outstanding result here. All right, and now we have Claude Opus 4.1. Let's test it out. This one looks good, definitely better than Sonnet 4.5, though not quite at ChatGPT's level, I'd say, right? The header works properly, but there is an occasional error pop-up that redirects to a new Claude page, which breaks the flow. Aside from that, everything functions well. It includes all the essentials, again, social proof, services, and more. The smooth interactive animations are really well done. Sections react nicely when you hover, and the schedule a consultation button has a subtle glow animation. Though that same error pops up when you click it, so it is a letdown. The animations though are top tier, probably even better than ChatGPT's. A quick follow-up prompt could likely fix the bugs, but overall it's not as modern looking as ChatGPT's version. But yes, the animation work stands out here. So my final thoughts are that ChatGPT clearly wins this round with the modern design and flawless functionality. Opus 4.1 takes second. Its animations actually surpass ChatGPT's, but the technical issues hold it back, and Sonnet 4.5 finishes last at this test because it has a flat design and missing core features. And now for the last question, we'll generate code for an NA10 workflow. I created some sample data, like a dummy e-commerce orders. We'll use this workflow to pull the data, parse it, and calculate metrics like the total amount spent by each user and their total orders. We'll use those metrics to categorize users into segments like VIP, at risk, etc. And we'll also analyze their behavior. And we'll do it all with the code node. So we'll ask the LLMs to write code which I need to paste into the code node in NA10 to meet these requirements. So here's the prompt we'll use. Again, you can pause the video to check it carefully. We'll include the sample data the code node will get as input and paste it here. If possible, it's better to clarify exactly how you want the output to be formatted at all times when you communicate with LLMs. So, Claude Sonnet 4.5. Let's run the prompt. Now I've got the result, copied the code and pasted it into the code node, and it works perfectly. We got the data exactly in the format we requested, and now we can use that output in the next nodes of the workflow. GPT-5, let's do the same here. Again, ran the prompt, copied the code, pasted it in, and again, it worked flawlessly. The data came out exactly as specified. And now Claude Opus 4.1, let's test it in Opus. Ran the prompt, pasted the code, and it also works perfectly. So as I expected, all three models performed well in this round. I kind of use LLMs to help me with NA10 automations all the time, so it's not a surprise. Anyway, let's move on to the writing tests. I prepared 3 different writing prompts, and we'll see which model delivers the best overall quality. So for the first one, we'll ask the LLMs to write a lead magnet a LinkedIn post. Here's the scenario. We have a lead generation system that we've sold to other businesses for thousands of dollars multiple times. And in this post, we are giving that system away for free. That's the setup. Now, here's the prompt we'll use. We'll include the sample information in the placeholder when running it. I'll start with Claude 4.5. Let's look at the response. The hook is strong and reads naturally, I'd say. Definitely feels like something a human would write. It explains the system clearly, though the pacing could be a bit tighter, I think. Overall, solid work. I think with a few small edits, this post would be ready to go live. Now, let's see it in ChatGPT. Again, ran the prompt, and right away, the hook is more disappointing, I'd say. It clearly sounds AI written, right? With no real conversational tone. It does explain the system, but the structure feels more like a bullet point list than a flowing LinkedIn post. The transitions are rough, and the overall flow just, is just isn't there. As it stands, this version isn't usable, I'd say, to go live without a lot of rewriting. And now let's check Gemini. So the response came through, and again, the hook feels a bit weak. I'm not a fan of that happily paid for it line. The flow, though, is smoother than ChatGPT's, with better transitions between sentences, and uh, still, the explanation of the system isn't very clear, and the post feels too short overall. That said, I think the sentence structure and rhythm are an improvement over ChatGPT's version. Overall, Claude 4.5 is the clear winner here, followed by Gemini in second, and ChatGPT 5 coming in last for this round. And again, here's a quick pro tip. I already said this. When writing with AI, it really helps to include examples of what the ideal output should look like. In this case, when I provided a few high-performing lead magnet posts as examples, the results improved drastically across all models, even though I still preferred Claude's output overall. Now, moving on to the second question, we'll ask the LLMs to write a VSL, a video sales letter, for an online fitness coaching program. So we'll clearly define the target audience, highlight their main pain points, and outline our offer. We'll also include the exact structure and style we want the VSL written in. Here's the detailed prompt we'll be using. Write a 5-minute video sales letter script for Metabolic Momentum Online Coaching, an online fitness program that helps complete beginners lose 15 to 25 pounds and build lean muscle in 90 days without extreme diets or living in the gym. Let's see how it works out. So, we'll start with Claude 4.5. Let's run the prompt. The response looks solid. I've already read it and can say that the hook works well. It really taps into the audience's pain points and uses them to build relatability. The problem buildup hits the right tone, making the reader feel like understood, by saying things like, it's not your fault. This helps explain why they've struggled before. The transition to the solution mentions using a protein-rich diet, but that feels a bit vague, right? It doesn't really build much excitement. The offer and training session breakdowns are solid, and it keeps things realistic without over-promising. Objections are handled well, though the scarcity part feels a little forced. And overall, I'd say it is a strong, convincing VSL. So Claude really finds that sweet spot between persuasive and authentic. Now let's see GPT-5. Let's test it here. All right. So the hooks, okay, not bad, but it doesn't quite grab your attention. The intro feels more like a list, and it calls out a really specific group, which might limit the reach. The problem build-up feels a bit scattered, like separate thoughts instead of a smooth story. The rest of the script just follows that same pattern and kind of drifts away from the structure we wanted. It leans too hard into sales talk and doesn't sound naturally persuasive. The offer, proof, and objection sections are all just fine, not great. Anyway, now let's try Gemini. The hook's average throws in some random lines like dealing with customers and trading your left kidney, which kind of ruined the flow, I think. The problem buildup doesn't quite land. It's missing that emotional pull that makes a VSL connect. Oh, the flows is a bit uneven and not as rough as ChatGPT's, but it still lacks the punch, the rhythm that Claude's version had. So it's somewhere in the middle, usable, but you need to tweak it, but still not great out of the box. Overall, Claude 4.5 wins this one, again with the best mix of clarity, tone, and persuasion, I'd say. Gemini comes next, and GPT-5 falls a bit short this round. And for the final question, we'll go with something simple, but it's great for testing a model's creativity. Here's the question. Explain the concept of black holes to two different audiences, a curious 10-year-old and a college undergraduate studying physics. Write each explanation in its own section. Okay, so let's run the prompt in Sonnet 4.5. Here's the response. I'm not gonna read it all. Again, just pause for a second and go through it. As someone without much background in physics and black holes, I'd say it's pretty good. The explanation reads like a story. It has clear visuals, like the trampoline analogy, to make it easier to picture. I really like this part. If something gets too close to a black hole, it gets stretched out like spaghetti before disappearing inside. Scientists actually call this spaghettification. How cool is that? It's really cool. Okay, when it moves into the advanced part, it dives deep with proper formulas and scientific terminology. So all good there. Then we have ChatGPT. Let's check out the output from GPT-5. It also starts with the trampoline analogy, but gets right to the point without the extra build-up that Claude included. The explanation is more structured, I'd say, almost in a bullet point style, which ChatGPT really likes. But this time it actually works well for clarity because it needs to explain it. It introduces terms like event horizon and addresses common misconceptions with lines like black holes don't vacuum everything up, if you didn't know. For the college level version, it goes even deeper with accurate formulas, terminology, and well-explained physics concepts. And finally, let's check out Gemini. So it also starts with the trampoline example, but takes a Q&A style approach, answering common questions, to help clarify the idea. The information is easy to follow, and for the college level explanation, it adds also relevant formulas and more detailed topic-specific insights, also showing like a solid grasp of the concept. So overall, I'd say that ChatGPT wins this round. It offered the most complete and well-balanced response for both audiences. It kind of combined clarity and depth. Gemini comes in second, and Claude finishes last this time. And finally, let's move on to data analysis. For this one, we'll be testing just a single, more complex question. Here's the setup. We've got a large dataset of BMW sales data from 2010 to 2024. So we are talking about a long-term, high-volume dataset, right? And the prompt we'll be using is this. Act as a senior market strategy analyst at BMW headquarters in Munich. You've been provided with the BMW worldwide sales dataset. The board is preparing for its next 5-year strategic plan and needs a deep dive into historical trends to inform future product pricing and regional marketing decisions. Perform a market evolution analysis, pricing and depreciation model, and product portfolio analysis. As you can see, this isn't a simple data analysis task. It requires some analytical thinking, understanding of trends, and reasoning. So let's see how Sonnet 4.5 and OpenAI's GPT-5 handle it. Let's start with Claude. The response looks good. It sounds like something a real market analyst would probably present to a board. So instead of just listing data, it tells a clear story and even questions common ideas like the EV revolution and SUV takeover. It gives a more realistic view based on BMW's numbers. It focuses more on insights and strategy than just analysis, which is exactly what you want here, right? So overall, a strong and well-balanced answer. Now let's check ChatGPT. Okay, it added a few random charts and graphs we didn't ask for, which was unexpected. The analysis is clear and easy to follow, and it does a good job explaining data limitations, but it sticks too much to describing the data and misses the strategic layer that Claude delivered. So overall, Claude definitely did better in this one. And my final verdict is that Sonnet 4.5 is a solid model. There weren't any massive performance gaps between it and the others, but it definitely held its ground. It really does well in coding, though ChatGPT also did well there, especially in the website test, if you remember. For writing, Sonnet 4.5 stands out with a natural, balanced style that makes it great for copywriting and content-focused work. And for data analysis, you saw it yourself, Sonnet 4.5 clearly delivers the strongest result. But again, these are just my first impressions from this round of testing. I'll keep exploring what these models can do, what they can't do, and if I find anything interesting, I'll make sure to share it with you. That's it for this video. Drop a comment with your thoughts on the test and make sure to subscribe for more content. Bye!